Hey, everybody. I'm here with Francesca Montgomery. And Francesca, you work, tell everybody which site you work in and kind of what types of cases you work with us.
I am currently at the Bowie condo location, and plenty of the clients that I see are dealing with issues of depression, anxiety, grief, anger management, um, things of that nature, family issues, things like that.
Great, great. Yeah, it seems like not that long ago, Francesca and I sat down in a condo that had no heat, was
Yep.
freezing cold, wasn't
Hmm.
finished yet.
Hmm.
And it's been a process, and she's gone through a process of onboarding with us, and lots of hands in our office have needed to do their part for that to happen, for her to actually be with clients. And Francesca, before I start asking you about a couple of specific cases that you can share with everybody. I just wanted to share with everyone a scripture. It's out of Psalm 1, and it says, "Blessed is the one who does not walk in step with the wicked, or stand in the way that sinners take, or sit in the company of mockers, but whose delight is in the law of the Lord, and who meditates on his law day and night." And here's the
Hmm.
part I really want to highlight. That person is like a tree planted by streams of water. You get that? That person is
Hmm.
like a tree planted by streams of water, which yields its fruit in season, and whose leaf does not wither. Whatever they do prospers. So
Amen.
our our mission really is to be like that tree that
Hmm.
brings refreshment and life to
Hmm.
other people. Everybody, everything that a tree planted by streams of water does, the fruit, the shade, the aesthetics, everything that it does. That's a picture of our counselors. What our goal is in order to be like that with clients. And so I knew immediately in the interview with Francesca that she was a person like that, that would just bring refreshment and life
Thank
to
you.
others. And it's really neat to see, like 8 months later, whatever it's been,
Hmm.
that there are people, that premonition was right. It was spot on, and there's people who are getting refreshment from
Hmm.
Francesca, just like that tree. So, Francesca, you were telling me earlier about a couple of clients. Why don't you
Yeah.
just paint like a picture, start with the first one, and paint a picture for our office staff of kind
Okay.
of, what this client was coming in for, and kind of describe it briefly, and then what their mental and spiritual state was coming in, and then kind of secondly what you did, how
Hmm.
you interacted with them, and then thirdly the effect that had on it, what their life is like now.
Okay. Well, the first client that I'll talk about was a young woman who came into session dealing with a lot of anxiety, conflicting feelings about her relationship with God and her father, um, and a bit of depression. She came in after having been in therapy before, but she didn't follow through with it. And the reason that she was in therapy before was because she had a breakdown while she was in college.
Mm,
She suffered with a lot of anxiety issues. It caused her to not be able to function during the day at times. And sometimes the depression would get the best of her and she would just stay in bed all day. She felt that nothing that she could do was right in the eyes of her father, who was also a pastor, nor in the eyes of God. And it was causing her a lot of conflict and a lot of stress because she was overworking herself, trying to do everything perfect, always worrying and expecting the worst outcomes to happen to her, even when it was clear that she was more than prepared for things.
mm. Does she have a job now?
Yes,
Is she out of school?
she just started working. In the process of therapy, one of her main worries was she was taking the exam to become a licensed social worker.
Oh, wow.
She was studying nonstop. She wasn't eating. She wasn't taking any breaks. And she was just really, really stressed that she wasn't going to be able to pass this exam. So that was one of the things that I worked with her on, which was helping her to understand that you prepare, you do the best that you can, and what happens after that is what happens after that. If you don't pass, it's not going to be the end of the world.
Right.
There's
So
other
you,
things
so you
you can do.
gave her perspective
Yeah.
on things, and also this anxiety and depression really
Mm-hmm.
interfered with her ability to
Mm-hmm.
work and to
Mm-hmm.
potentially pass the exam. And I take it she's somebody that really has a heart and compassion for other
Yes,
people.
definitely. Yes,
You know,
definitely.
she's probably
She
your,
has a heart for serving.
yeah, it sounds like you gave her perspective too
Yeah.
on that can be her greatest gift, but also
Yeah.
her Achilles heel at the same
Yes.
time. That was
Yes.
dragging her down with the lack of
Mhm.
boundaries you talk about.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this. What did you do? You said that in her previous therapy, she didn't stick with it. How did you engage her in the therapeutic process to actually stick with it with you?
I think it actually had to do a lot with the fact that we weren't too far off in age from one another. And also, I think it was really a lot on her. She was in a better place to where she was more willing and ready to receive therapy services. Whereas I think when she had the breakdown in college, it was more so like her family making her go to see what was going on, but she just wasn't in the right mindset to stick with
Hmm.
therapy. But this time she sought out therapy on her own. She knew that she was going to have some life changes coming up, and she needed to really address the things that she had been dealing with for most of her life.
Right. So everybody, Francesca's pulling the humble routine on us. Um, I One of the things that I look for when I interview counselors in the beginning in that cold condo and Bowie without heat is somebody who I think can make that relational connection with clients,
Hmm.
because that's foundational. If that happens, then there's a fighting chance that
Right.
the client is going to get better. And
Hmm.
so we don't have time to tease it out, but
Hmm.
my suspicion is that there are things intuitively, naturally, that
Hmm.
Francesca, that you do that really engages clients in that treatment process.
Hmm.
And so um, tell us through like kind of what interventions you used, what your strategy was with her, and then kind of how her life's different now, how she
Okay.
grew through that process.
Well, we initially started with a lot of mindfulness training
Mm-hmm.
to help her be able to relax and feel more comfortable. Um, she had a hard time focusing when it was time to go to bed.
Mm-hmm.
So created a bedtime routine that involved mindfulness training, a lot of talking to herself. I know I will reiterate with her, I know it may feel silly, but you need to say some of these things out loud so that you'll better understand them.
Mm-hmm.
Um, So we started with that. And then after the mindfulness training, that's when we started working on the communication skills as far as her relationship with her dad went.
Right.
That was a really tough situation for her to be able to work through. Her dad, she had these really high standards set for herself and thought that that's what her dad wanted, but she also had a hard time communicating with him. So
Right.
after about, I want to say 6 sessions, she was able to finally, just recently, have this deep conversation that she's been needing to have with her dad. And it really caused her to be able to relax and start making changes in other aspects of her life. And
Right.
just it encouraged her with the coping skills training and the mindfulness. And we did a lot of scripture-based um, set trainings and again, the Socrates questioning, helping her to challenge her unrealistic and negative thought patterns.
Uh-huh.
Once she was able to realize that she can take these steps for herself, she has started to move in a direction that allows her to do these things in other relationships in her life.
Boy. And you had mentioned, I think earlier, she's learned how to set some boundaries and limits with other people, right?
Mm-hmm.
So give everybody kind of an idea, give us the 30-second version of kind of what that could look like for a client like this.
Okay. She actually sets a lot of boundaries with herself. She, again, would place unrealistic goals for herself and try to accomplish everything at once. And if she couldn't, she would just have these breakdowns. So we worked on attaining small goals for her
Uh-huh.
and being able to attain these small goals or not obtain them. She would learn that the world goes on either way. And
Right.
whatever happens, happens, and I did my best no matter what. Um,
That's good. Let me interject a boundary, what it could look like for somebody who spends their life being there for everybody else. I think this
mhm,
thing of mindfulness and boundaries are really key concepts that our office
mhm,
staff may not be completely aware of. I mean, kind of the boundaries you were telling me about earlier is just simply in the big scale, this sense of I don't have to solve everybody's problems all the time. That's a boundary,
right.
saying there are
Yep.
some things in other people's lives that are on their plate. I can be an
Mhm,
encourager. I can be
mhm,
there for them. I can maybe not be there for them at certain times. That's a boundary.
mhm,
But it's a boundary to say it's their problem I'm helping them with. It's not my problem to have to
yeah.
carry 24/7. And
Right.
then mindfulness, um, probably our office staff doesn't know what mindfulness means. It's simply, and you can interject too, Francesca, it's being self-aware in the
Mhm,
present moment,
exactly.
in life of what your thoughts, your feelings, your desires in real time in that present moment are.
Exactly.
And kind of the word to another psychological word to kind of describe a client like this is codependent. And
Mhm,
codependent people, which just means they're there for everybody else, but they're kind of out of touch with what they
mhm,
need. Mindfulness is a great approach with clients like that. And it sounds
mhm,
like you really kind of honed in on that, and this client really connected to that, and it
mhm.
brought freedom and life to them.
Indeed. Yes, that is exactly what happened.
Mm. Boy, that's neat. So I hope to our office staff that that's extremely encouraging and kind of gives you all a picture of what happens, in these offices, these spaces, that we talk about the business aspects of, but
Mhm,
they're spaces that are sacred where people bear their souls, and the presence of God and the skills of a counselor and the
mhm,
heart of a person all intersect and converge, and
mhm.
change happens and
Yes, it
amazing
can.
things happen.
I also wanted to say that one of the things that I think helps me to connect with most of my clients is the fact that I make them feel comfortable, and I'm really just real with them and honest with them. I'm not abrasive or anything like
Yeah.
that or unprofessional, but once we've built that rapport, I'm just open with them.
Mm,
And I think when they hear these things, some of the things that I say out loud, they they may have heard them from people that they know before, but it's
right.
different when it comes from someone else that you don't really know, someone that has an unbiased opinion. So I think that that is another thing that helps me to connect with my clients more easily.
Mm, that's fantastic. See, I knew you'd come up with something you're actually doing. um, hey, you told me about a second case.
Hmm. Yeah.
Briefly give everybody a description, of
Okay.
that one. Kind of like briefly walk us through the whole process we just went through on the first client.
Okay. So this was another woman. She has three daughters. She's married, and she came in to therapy because she had been battling with extreme anger and depression to the point where she felt like it was affecting her everyday life and how she communicated with people she wasn't even upset with. The anger and depression started from this past December 2017 when she found out that her son-in-law had been physically abusive to her daughter.
Mm,
And she found out because the police actually had to call her out to the house during an incident to come pick up the grandkids. She was upset with her daughter because she felt her daughter should have come to her, and she was upset with her son-in-law for obvious reasons. She didn't
yeah.
know how to express these feelings to anyone. She would bottle up her emotions and keep it inside to the point where she felt like it was causing her to have ulcers because she
Mm,
was just so stressed out about it. Um, so, what we did after we built rapport was we worked on coping skills and communication skills and definitely setting boundaries because she also had an issue with telling people no, taking on other people's problems. Her daughter's situation was causing her so much stress because she felt like she should be the one to fix it, even though her daughter's grown and has been married to this gentleman for over a decade. She felt
right.
that it was her responsibility to fix everything, and when people didn't act accordingly or do what she thought they should, she would get really upset and didn't know how to work with it. So again, we did a lot of coping skills. Um, and anger management and communication skills. So she would learn how to express herself, say what she really meant, set those boundaries, learn that she doesn't have to fix everybody's issues. She can only do the best that she can. And if people decide to make their own decisions, they're adults, and that's what she has to accept.
What's happened to her stress, depression, and anxiety levels through, like, compare it now with when she came in?
Well, once we talked about those coping skills and it was really the setting boundaries that did it for her. Once she mastered setting boundaries and telling people no and sticking with that, she really just took off from there.
Mm-hmm.
She was able to be honest and open with her family members and tell them how she felt. She had a sister in New York who was in a tumultuous relationship. She was able to set boundaries with her sister and her mother, who she felt was always coming to her with her issues. She set boundaries there. She had an acquaintance at church who she felt was just using her for financial reasons, and she was
Mm-hmm.
able to understand that this wasn't a true friend and set boundaries there. And once she was able to do that, she learned how to do everything else, the coping skills, the anger management, and she stopped coming to sessions crying and started coming smiling and laughing and
Wow.
just really excited and ready to talk about normal everyday things. I think the last thing we talked about in our session before discharge was a trip. She had gone on a Christian cruise to Alaska with her husband, and we just spent most of the time talking about how that vacation went. And she just
Mm.
felt really refreshed and renewed and just really excited for what the future held.
Boy, look at that. You go from stressed out and overwhelmed with life to Alaskan cruises. I like
Mm-hmm.
that progression. I want
Mm-hmm.
some.
Right.
So we've thrown out the term boundaries a lot,
Mm-hmm.
too. And I wanted to for the office staff, just kind of give a little snippet about that. Picture, we throw that word boundaries out as counselors. That's a word we use all the time. And there's a great book by Henry Cloud and John Townsend that's called Boundaries. That
Mm-hmm.
would be fantastic. Sold millions of copies. Um, but picture your computer. What happens if you don't have a firewall or
Right.
any antivirus?
Right.
You know, right? Your computer just gets infected with all this stuff. There's
Right.
people
Right.
that they don't have your best interest in mind. I had to tell my kids this when they were little. Don't click on,
Exactly.
you're not getting the free laptop. Don't
Right.
click on that. It's a
Right.
virus, and it'll let things in that are not good for that computer, to the point where
Exactly.
eventually that computer will stop working. And a boundary, as a human being, it's the same kind of concept, that we ought to have
Right.
firewalls and guardrails about what we let in. Imagine every problem every person has that we know, if we just let all that in and we don't have
Yep.
any firewall to stop it, pretty soon we're completely overwhelmed and our life's unmanageable. And it
Mm-hmm.
kind of sounds like both of these clients, and they had problems in that area, and you really help them to see that you can be a godly, loving, kind person and set limits at the same time. It doesn't mean
Yes.
you're, a harsh person and not a good person. But Francesca, it sounds like you're doing great work. We are super grateful to have you on our team. You
Oh, I love Safe Harbor. It's great. It really is.
Can you say that again? No, I'm just kidding. No, so if I didn't say it earlier, Francesca's going out on maternity leave soon. We congratulate her on that, and our
Thank
prayers
you.
are with you for a safe delivery and everything, and this exciting time in your family's life and your life.
Thank you.
All right, well, you have a great night, Francesca. Thanks for sharing with our staff.
You're welcome.
All right, take care.
Bye bye.
Bye.